Welcome to the Mad Human channel, where we slow time down one story at a time. Tonight, we drift inward, not into oceans or stars, but into something much closer, much smaller, much older. We are diving into the quiet code within you, the one humming in every cell, whispering across generations, holding the memory of everything you've ever been and everything you could become. DNA, it's not just a molecule. It's a time machine, a map, a memory, a mystery, and whether you've ever thought about it or not, it's been writing your story long before you were born, and it's still writing now. But what is DNA, really? Is it a blueprint? A script? A ghost? Tonight, we follow its thread, from the beginning of life to your breath in this moment. From ancient ancestors to unknown futures. Through extinction and survival. Through silence and signal. This is not just a science lesson. This is the story of how life remembers. This is the story of you. And so we begin. You are sitting here, breathing, blinking, perhaps unaware. But inside you, billions of cells are awake. Alive. Dividing. Rebuilding. Communicating in a language older than words. They speak in chemicals, in patterns, in loops of code that never sleep. In the center of each one is a nucleus, and inside that, coiled tighter than the threads of time, is a strand of DNA. It looks simple at first. Just a twist, a helix, a spiral staircase of 4 letters, T, C, G. But inside those letters are instructions for a life, your life. Instructions for how to build a brain, how to grow a heart, what color your eyes should be, how tall you might stand, whether you're more likely to love cilantro or hate it, even the tempo of your circadian rhythm, even the shape of your laughter, all hidden in the folds. And here's what's even more poetic. DNA doesn't just tell your story. It remembers the stories that came before. You are made of the choices of your ancestors, the environments they lived in, the food they ate, the loves they held, the fears they faced, their pain, their survival, their adaptation. It's all been quietly folded into your code, passed forward, carried, preserved, not as memory but as biology. When you touch your skin, you are touching a library. When you blink your eyes, you are blinking through centuries. When you speak, your voice echoes the decisions of thousands who came before you. And the wildest part? The still changing. Every moment, every breath, every cell. Because DNA is not just a book. It's a living script. And so the story deepens. This script, this spiral thread within you, it doesn't sit still. It dances. It folds and unfolds like a breathing scroll, copying itself again and again with an almost impossible grace. Every second, millions of your cells divide. And with each division, your DNA duplicates itself. It is not just a copy machine, it is a memory keeper. It makes mistakes sometimes, tiny ones, a misread letter, an accidental flip, and sometimes, those tiny errors become miracles. A mutation that helps you survive. A change that allows the next version of you to endure where the last might not have. That's what evolution really is, not just the strong surviving, but stories being edited by time itself. The earth is the editor, the environment the critic, and your body is the current draft, an ancient manuscript still being written, not carved in stone, but traced in molecules. Every cell in your body, every skin flake, every eyelash, every drop of blood, carries a copy of this code. The same code that once pulsed inside your great-grandmother. The same that lived in the bones of a hunter on the steppe. The same that guided the fingers of someone weaving nets beside an ancient river, who laughed and cried, and made choices you will never know, but choices that helped write you into being. And that's where it begins to feel holy, because this isn't just about genes. This is about memory, not the kind you think, not facts or photos or names, but something older, deeper. Your DNA remembers when your ancestors walked across ice, when they starved, when they found fire, when they sang for the first time. It remembers what survived. It forgets what didn't. It carries forward only what life needed to keep going. And you are proof that it worked. So you are not alone in your body. You are a walking archive, a collection of lives, folded into protein, wrapped in code. And when you wonder why you feel the way you do, why some fears come out of nowhere, why some hungers feel unexplainable, it might be because the story didn't start with you. You are not the first page. You are a chapter. And DNA is the book still writing itself. Let me know if you'd like to continue right into the next passage. We have a long and beautiful journey ahead. And so we turn the page again, following the spiral staircase of your existence further down, deeper in. If you could take your DNA, all of it, every coil in every cell, and stretch it out, it would reach the moon and back. Not once, not twice, but hundreds of times. And yet, all of that distance is folded quietly into the soft machinery behind your ribs, behind your thoughts, behind your eyes. It doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. It doesn't need to shout to create a universe. Because that's what you are. A universe of instructions. A collection of decisions so small and quiet they could be mistaken for nothing at all. And yet they built you. You are not a machine assembled by outside forces. You are grown from within, built cell by cell, guided by a code that learned through fire and flood, through famine and feast, through love and loss, how to keep going. And somewhere inside that code are the pieces of you that are utterly unique, combinations that have never existed before, traits that have never met in quite this way. A mosaic of everything that came before you, and something new that begins with you. This is where it becomes art. Because yes, DNA is science, but what it creates is poetry. It writes the curve of your hands, the slope of your nose, the way your voice trembles when you're moved, the way your brain lights up at certain words, certain smells, certain songs. It shapes how you react to sunlight, to sadness, to caffeine. It doesn't just shape what you look like. It influences how you experience the world. And yet, and this is important, it does not define you. It offers you a foundation, but it is not your ceiling. Because DNA may write the first draft, but you write the next. Through every choice you make, every thought you entertain, every habit you build or break, you're not just reacting to your code, you're speaking to it, changing it, teaching it. In a field called epigenetics, we now know that our environment, our diet, our stress, our love, even our trauma, can turn genes on and off like light switches. And some of those switches may even be passed on. So what does that mean? It means your story doesn't just end with you. It means you are not only the result, you are the author of what comes next. You are the ripple in the water that changes the shape of the shore. You are the moment where the story curves into something new. You are not just a passenger in this genetic river. You are also the current. And when you realize that, when you sit with it, you start to understand something deeper. You matter, not just because you exist, but because your existence carries everything before you and touches everything after. This is how DNA tells the story of you. And we've only just begun to read it. Shall I keep flowing forward into the next section? We can explore how DNA first formed, how it began inside primordial oceans, and how its elegant shape became the script for all life on Earth. Let me know and I'll continue seamlessly. Then let us continue. Long before there were humans, before bones, before breath, there was a world of chaos and chemistry. A young Earth still cooling from its violent birth. Volcanoes spat fire into the air, comets brought water and carbon, and lightning danced wildly across thick, alien skies. In this swirling chaos, in tiny warm puddles or deep ocean vents, something miraculous began to stir. Molecules bumped, collided, broke apart, and reformed endlessly, blindly. And then, somewhere in that madness, a pattern held. A structure formed. Something copied itself. It wasn't alive yet, but it wanted to be. That was the beginning of DNA, or something like it, a self-replicating molecule, a whisper of order in a world of noise, a structure that could make more of itself again and again without forgetting. For millions of years, these molecules multiplied, improved, adapted. They competed. They learned not in the way minds do, but in the way molecules do, by staying, by surviving, by failing and trying again. And from that slow climb through chemistry and time, life emerged. Single-celled, simple, silent, but alive. And inside every one of them, a molecule that could remember, a strand of information, a genetic archive, and that was the seed of everything. Every tree, every whale, every dragonfly and dandelion and dinosaur, every ancestor you've never heard of. Every whisper of life on this planet came from that thread. And still today, your DNA carries echoes of that beginning. In its shape, in its logic, in its rhythm. For letters A, T, C, G, repeating in infinite combinations, guiding cells like musicians reading sheet music. The music is ancient, but the song it plays in you is one the world has never heard before. You are the latest verse in a song 4 billion years in the making. And yet, you are not trapped by the melody. You're the voice that makes it new. This is the paradox of DNA. It is fixed and it is fluid. It binds you to the earth, and it frees you to rise above it. It is what makes you human, and what connects you to every living thing that ever lived. When you look at a tree, you share part of its code. When you look at a bird or a mushroom or a coral reef, you are not just seeing life. You are seeing family. And when you look in the mirror, you are seeing not just yourself, but thousands of lifetimes reaching forward to become you, to bring their story to this moment, to your breath, your thoughts, your hands on this world. And so we keep reading, because there's more, always more. Then let's keep flowing. Inside your cells, tucked neatly in those spiraling ladders of DNA, lie not just instructions for your physical form, but blueprints for your reactions, your emotions, your hungers, your fears. You might not know it, but many of the things you feel have roots buried deep in your code. That rush of adrenaline when something startles you? That might be your ancestors, encoded into your bones, reacting to the shadow of a predator long gone. That warmth you feel when someone holds your hand? That's not just a moment. It's the echo of bonds that helped your kind survive. Love, fear, grief, longing, they aren't random. They are remembered. Because DNA doesn't just build bodies. It builds instincts. And instincts are like soft whispers from the past, guiding you before your brain even knows what it's doing. A baby's grip, a gasp when you touch fire, a tear that rises without being asked. These are not things you were taught. These are things your ancestors gifted you, passed down like heirlooms, not in boxes but in molecules. But here's where it gets even more haunting. Not only does your DNA carry your traits, it may also carry the shadows of their trauma. Science is just beginning to understand this, but in studies of people whose families lived through war, famine, genocide, and slavery, we've found something extraordinary. Their children, and sometimes even grandchildren, show chemical marks on their DNA. Not mutations, but edits. As if the body wrote footnotes in the margins of the genome, warnings, memories, survival strategies. This field is called epigenetics, and it tells us something our ancestors always sensed, even if they didn't have the words for it. That pain can echo. That memory can live in the body. That survival leaves fingerprints, not just in history, but in blood. It means your sorrow might not be yours alone. It means your strength may come from someone you've never met. It means your healing can ripple backward as well as forward. Because if trauma can be passed down, so can care. So can calm. So can safety. When you break a cycle, when you hold a child gently, when you breathe instead of scream, you're not just changing the present, you're rewriting the code. You're editing the song. You are giving future generations a new verse to sing. And that, more than anything, might be the most powerful story DNA tells. Not what we were, but what we choose to become. Then let us step gently into the next dream. When you close your eyes and drift into sleep, your body becomes quiet, but your mind begins to wander. It constructs landscapes from memory and mystery, voices from nowhere, visions that feel both ancient and new, dreams, strange, slippery, surreal, rise up from within you like mist from a deep forest floor. But where do they come from? Are they only the flicker of neurons? Or could they be something more? Some scientists believe that the themes of our dreams, flight, falling, fear, searching, are rooted in our evolution. That the dream of being chased through the dark may not be random, but a memory older than language. That the forest you run through in sleep might echo the one your ancestors hid in. that your nightmare of drowning may come from those who once watched the floodwaters rise and could do nothing but survive. If that's true, then perhaps DNA does more than build bodies and store instinct. Perhaps it also shapes our inner world. Think of it like this: DNA is a story written in code. Your life is a story written in moments. And dreams are the whispers between the two. What if your dreams are how your body speaks its oldest truths? What if they are how your code tries to feel? When you dream of someone you've never met, perhaps it's an echo from your lineage, a fragment of someone your blood remembers but your brain does not. When you dream of running but never reach the end, maybe that is your survival mechanism playing out its rehearsal, carved deep into your genes. We are just beginning to understand this. But some part of you already knows. You've felt it, haven't you? That certain dreams feel too old to be yours. That certain feelings during sleep seem deeper than the day. DNA doesn't dream in pictures, but it creates the stage on which your dreams play. It wires the brain that dreams. It programs the chemistry that shapes how deeply you sleep, how often you wake, whether you remember the stories you see behind your eyes. Even in your sleep, your ancestors are speaking, and you are listening. You are not just dreaming your own story. You are dreaming the unfinished chapters of everyone who came before. And that brings us to something even stranger, something even more beautiful. You are not the end of this thread. You are the bridge. Every day, every breath, every choice. It's not just shaping your life. It's shaping the lives that come next. Then follow the spiral with me, deeper still toward the future. Because while DNA holds the echoes of everything that came before you, it also extends into everything that comes after. You are not the final destination of this story. You are a bridge suspended between the ancient and the unborn, carrying memory forward, passing possibility ahead. You see, when you were formed, when a single cell split and danced into becoming you, half of your DNA came from one person and half from another. A mother, a father. But the story didn't start with them. It stretched back, generation after generation, through drought and migration, through war and ritual, through love and silence. Your genome is a patchwork quilt stitched from thousands of lives, some remembered, most forgotten. And now, part of it is yours to carry forward. Maybe you'll pass it to a child. Maybe you'll pass it in another way, through art, through kindness, through the legacy of how you lived. Because the truth is, not all DNA is made of molecules. Some of it is made of meaning, of decisions, of actions, of the way you touch others. Just as your cells carry adenine and thymine, your spirit carries choice and consequence. And just as your genes shape your body, your words and your love shape the world around you. This is the invisible genome, the one we build every day together without a microscope. But still, the biological thread remains. If you do have children, or if someone is born carrying your line, they will inherit not just your hair color or your immune quirks, but maybe the resilience you built in hard times. Maybe the calm you cultivated through healing. Maybe the strength you forged out of grief. Epigenetic markers can pass down through generations, changing how genes behave. That means your healing becomes theirs. That means your transformation echoes forward, quietly, like water flowing underground. You don't need to be perfect. You only need, because the power to shape life is now in our hands. And the story we tell from here will echo farther than we can imagine. Into every future breath, every cell yet to divide, every child yet to dream. This is no longer just the story of biology. It is the story of responsibility, of ethics, of love. And so we walk gently, thoughtfully, with our fingertips on the threads of creation. Not to pull them apart, but to weave them more carefully, more compassionately. The double helix isn't just a molecule. It's a mirror. It shows us what we are, and asks us softly what we wish to become. Then let us arrive, gently, reverently, at the end of this spiral. Not with a bang, but with a breath. Because the story of DNA, the story of you, was never just about science. It was about connection, continuity, the way a single thread can pass through time without breaking, the way it loops and winds and folds, and somehow still carries meaning, still carries life. Inside you, right now, are strands that have seen fire and flood, that have survived plagues and war and silence, that have sung in forgotten languages, that have walked on lands that no longer exist. You are the living memory of 1,000 lives. And not one of them was perfect. Not one of them knew what would come next. And yet, they endured just long enough for you to be here. And so when you feel small, when you wonder if you matter, remember this. You are not a mistake. You are not alone. You are not random. You are written with care, with persistence, with pain, and with beauty, into the oldest manuscript the earth has ever known. Your cells are poetry. Your breath is legacy. Your being is not just biology, it is a bridge. You are the book and the reader. You are the echo and the voice. You are the question and the answer. And when your time here ends, as it will for all of us, your code will not vanish. It will ripple. It will seed. It will rest in the world you've touched, in the child you raised, in the kindness you gave, in the love you left behind. Because not all DNA is written in molecules. Some of it is written in memory. And so we return, not to the beginning, but to a quiet place inside you, where your story waits, where your ancestors whisper, where your children, real or imagined, dream. Touch your chest. Feel your pulse. That's DNA still dancing, still carrying 1 billion years of movement, and still listening for what you will do next. Because your story is not over. Not yet. It never was. This is how DNA tells the story of you. And it's still being written. And so, even as the final words settle like soft dust in a quiet room, the spiral goes on. Because life doesn't end at understanding. It begins there. You see, knowledge of your DNA isn't a conclusion. It's an invitation to live more deeply, to love more openly, to choose more wisely. Because now you know, you are made of survival and sunlight. You are made of persistence and stardust. You are made of patterns and possibilities. But most of all, you are made of stories. Stories that were whispered by ancestors who never knew your name, but dreamed of your future. Stories that are etched not just in your genome, but in the way you laugh, the way you grieve, the way you pause to listen to the wind. And what you do with this body, with this life, becomes part of the story passed forward. In your actions, your voice, your silence, your choices, you shape the next verse. So when you speak with compassion, you are editing the genome of the world. When you forgive, when you protect, when you create, you are inscribing a better blueprint for tomorrow. This is why your presence matters. Not just to those around you, but to the entire human story. Because each of us holds a piece of the whole. No one else will ever carry your exact combination of code, of memory, of meaning. No one else will ever dream the dreams you do, or feel the world in the precise way you feel it. That makes you not just special, but necessary. And in a world that moves fast and forgets often, it is easy to overlook that. So pause now. Feel your breath. Feel the subtle miracle of your heartbeat. Its rhythm, its certainty, its quiet promise to keep going. That's your DNA, humming in harmony with every other living thing that has ever existed. And when you go out into the world, into its noise, its chaos, its constant asking, carry this truth with you. You are not just surviving. You are remembering. You are becoming. You are part of everything. This is not the end of the story. It never is. Close your eyes tonight knowing that something deep inside you, older than names, wiser than words, is still listening, still whispering, still writing. And if you sit still for a moment, just a moment, you might feel it, the quiet turning of something ancient within you. A soft awareness beneath the hum of thoughts and the rhythm of breath. It's always been there, hidden in the background, waiting, whispering, weaving, because your DNA doesn't just live in labs or textbooks. It lives in your every breath, in the way your skin heals, in the way you instinctively reach out when someone's hurting, in the shiver that runs down your spine when something feels right or wrong or familiar, even when you don't know why. That's not coincidence. That's code. Code shaped by generations of love, of fear, of hope, by storms survived, by promises kept, by chances taken, So when you look up at the night sky and feel something stir, when you hear a song that touches something deeper than memory, when you find yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean, breath held, heart quiet, know this, that feeling isn't just poetic. It's biological, because you come from stars, and salt water, an endless, relentless memory. You were not dropped here randomly. You were built, patiently, precisely, beautifully, to experience this moment, to ask questions, to seek wonder, to feel. Every cell in your body carries a library older than any civilization. Every blink, every heartbeat, every tear holds a message from 1,000 lifetimes. And what you do with that inheritance, how you choose to live, to love, to listen, becomes your offering in return. You don't have to be extraordinary. You already are. Because simply being, simply existing in this intricate dance of molecules and meaning is nothing short of a miracle. So when tomorrow comes, and you walk out into the ordinary world, remember, there is nothing ordinary about you. You are the song of countless lives, the living proof of resilience, the carrier of dreams older than time. Your DNA is not your limit. It is your launchpad, your invitation, your map through mystery. So hold it gently, honor it fiercely, and live truly live, as if the story of life is still being written through your steps. Because it is, and because you are the author now. And as the last threads of this story gently settle, know that nothing within you is still. Even now, your DNA is busy, copying, repairing, whispering instructions to your cells. Millions of tiny movements, orchestrated without your permission, without your awareness, all working in perfect rhythm to keep you. It's humbling, isn't it? To realize that your very existence is the result of billions of interactions, across billions of years, across countless lives, most of which you'll never know. And yet, here you are, awake, breathing, becoming, and still, the spiral continues. Because this isn't just your story, it's ours. All of us, every person alive right now, we share over 99.9% of the same DNA. We are threads from the same fabric, leaves from the same tree, echoes of the same beginning. Divided by borders and beliefs, yes. But beneath it all, beneath the skin and flags and fears, we are family. You share your DNA with poets and farmers, with warriors and wanderers, with the forgotten and the famous, with the ones who built and the ones who broke and the ones who carried us through both. You share your DNA with children yet unborn, little souls waiting in the wings of time, ready to carry forward what you give them, shaped not just by what you passed down biologically, but by how you lived. And that is the quiet, sacred choice we all face, to be a dead end, or to be a river, to let pain stop with us, or to turn it into something better, to rewrite the past not with regret, but with care. Because the gift of knowing what's inside you, the code, the chemistry, the wonder, is also the responsibility to shape what comes next. You don't need to cure diseases or climb mountains to do that. You just need to live awake, to love consciously, to choose kindness when anger would be easier, to speak truth when silence would be safer, to pass along a world, genetically, emotionally, spiritually, that's a little softer, a little wiser, a little more free. That's the real legacy. That's what DNA alone cannot do. That's what only you can choose. So tonight, as this story draws to a whisper, know that it never truly ends. The code inside you doesn't sleep, continues writing, remembering, evolving. And now that you know what it holds, perhaps you'll walk a little lighter, breathe a little deeper, and love a little more bravely, because this isn't just the story of DNA. It's the story of being human. It's the story of you, and it's still unfolding. And perhaps, as this spiral of thought reaches its soft landing, you begin to realize something even more profound, that you are not just the keeper of this story. You are its expression. Everything you are, your smile, your scars, your instincts, your voice, is a living echo of this miraculous, invisible architecture. You are not simply carrying DNA. You are performing it, every day, with every gesture, every decision, every breath. And still, it's not fixed. Unlike stone tablets or printed books, your genetic story is not set in permanence. Can shift, can respond. The way you eat, move, rest, feel, love, all of these shape the way your genes behave. This is called epigenetics, and it's one of the most poetic truths of all. Your environment, your experience, even your thoughts, can write notes in the margins of your biological manuscript. You are not a prisoner of your blueprint. You are a co-author. The trauma that runs in your blood, you can slow it, you can soothe it, you can change the tone. The resilience that once burned in your ancestors' bones, you can reignite it, you can amplify it, you can pass it forward. This is not the false promise of control, but the real promise of influence. Not everything is within your power, but more than you were taught is. You are the fulcrum between history and hope, and there is deep beauty in that, because when you sit across from someone, a loved one, a stranger, and see the shape of their face, the rhythm of their laugh, the flicker of pain or joy in their eyes, you are witnessing their genetic story too. You are watching another spiral unfold, another legacy become real. And in that space between spirals, in that seeing, that honoring, something sacred arises. Connection. We are not separate strands. We are a tapestry. And when we treat each other with empathy, with awe, with reverence, we begin to stitch something new into the human story. Something our DNA alone could never encode. So as this chapter draws to a close, let this be your quiet reminder. You are made of memory and mystery, of atoms and ancestors, of codes and choices, and somewhere in the dance between them, between what you inherited and what you create, you become something utterly unique, something never seen before, something impossible to replicate. You become you, and that is enough. Now rest if you wish. Let your breath slow. Let your cells sing their quiet lullaby. Let the spiral hum its ancient tune, spinning gently in the dark behind your ribs. You've walked the long road of your origin story, and you've arrived here, present, awake, aware. The spiral continues, and so do you. And as you rest in that truth, that the spiral continues, and so do you, you begin to understand. There's no final destination in this story. No point where the spiral ends, where the code becomes complete, where the song of your existence plays its last note. DNA doesn't stop. It adapts. Life doesn't conclude. Transforms. Even after you're gone. Long after your voice has faded. Your name has softened in memory. Your belongings have changed hands. The essence of you continues. In strands. In echoes. In laughter and tears that won't have your face, but will carry your rhythm. Because your story was never meant to be contained in a single lifetime. It was meant to ripple. Like a stone dropped into the stillest of ponds, your presence creates waves. Seen or unseen, felt or forgotten. And that is enough. That is everything. So many people chase legacy in monuments, in awards, in applause. But you? Your legacy is written in quieter places. In the way your child sighs in sleep. In the pause before you speak, choosing kindness. In the way someone you loved learns to love someone else, better, softer, more patiently, because of how you once held them. That is your DNA too. It's not all cells and chromosomes. It's the life between the lines. The love between the atoms. The silent choices that write something louder than words ever could. And if you listen, really listen, you might hear the spiral still humming, even now in your chest. Not for attention, not for praise, but because that's what life does. It moves forward. It remembers. It hopes. Even when you don't feel ready. Even when you doubt. Even when the world feels heavy, or quiet, or broken, your DNA keeps singing. Says, begin again. Try again. Grow again. And so you do. Not because you have to, but because it's who you are. A becoming. A becoming. Always, always a becoming. And that, dear listener, dear carrier of galaxies and grandmothers and fire and bone, that is the most extraordinary truth of all. Your story is not small. It is infinite. And the spiral continues. And as the spiral continues, it does so not in grand explosions or dazzling displays, but in the tiniest, quietest acts. A breath held before you speak, the warmth of your palm against someone else's, the courage to change a thought, a habit, a fear. These are the new strands being written, invisible yet powerful. They are the edits your ancestors could not have imagined, the progress your great-grandparents only dared to hope for. Because this moment, this breath, this awareness is your evolutionary edge. Not survival of the fittest, but survival of the kindest, of the most conscious, of the ones who carry the past and choose a softer future anyway. You, right now, are more than just a result. You are a decision. You are the dream your DNA never expected, a creature who can look back and forward at the same time, who can grieve and create in the same heartbeat, who can inherit trauma and still choose peace, who can feel ancient fear in your bones and still open your hands in love. This is the new power, not to control what the spiral contains, but to shape how it unfolds. To walk into the future with your eyes open and your heart steady, carrying within you the soft code of life, written not just in molecules, but in meaning. And this meaning, it multiplies. Every time you listen instead of shout. Every time you forgive instead of harden. Every time you step toward instead of away. You leave something in the world that wasn't there before. And that too is DNA. Emotional DNA, ethical DNA, invisible but inheritable. One day, someone you'll never meet may live a little more freely because of a boundary you set, a little more safely because of a truth you spoke, a little more fully because of a story you shared. That is legacy. That is transmission. That is the spiral continuing in forms beyond science, into soul. So take a final breath here in this space, not as an ending, but as a quiet beginning. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw soften. Let your heartbeat feel like more than just rhythm. Let it feel like purpose. Because it is. You are not just a link in the chain. You are the moment the chain became aware of itself. You are the storyteller and the story. And so, dear spiral walker, memory holder, future dreamer, go forward gently. You carry the universe within you. Now shape it well. Shape it kindly. Shape it as only you can. The spiral continues, and you are still becoming. And in that soft becoming, remember, you are never alone. Not truly. Because within you is every echo of life that came before. Every whisper of moss growing on stone, of wind dancing through ancient trees, of firelight reflected in curious eyes. Within you is the first cell that split, the first hand that reached, the first voice that wondered, why? You are the continuation of that wonder. You are the echo of ancient questions, still unfolding through modern breath. You are what happened when curiosity met courage, when survival met spirit, when biology became something more. And even when you feel lost, when the days stretch long and strange and quiet, that spiral still spins. Gently, faithfully, not asking for perfection, only presence. Only that you show up and notice the miracle of your own being. That you let your story unfold not with pressure, but with patience. Because spirals don't rush. They turn. They return. They deepen. So when the world asks for certainty, let yourself offer honesty instead. When the world pushes you to be more, try being truer. When the noise becomes too much, step into stillness. That stillness is where your code speaks loudest, not with words, but with truth. The kind of truth that lives in cells and scars and the softness of being alive. Let that truth guide you. Let it remind you that your DNA is not just a history. It's a home built from millions of lifetimes, sheltering your one extraordinary breath. And in this home, may you feel safe. May you feel enough. May you feel connected to the stars that formed your atoms, to the strangers who share your genes, to the stories still waiting to be told through your life. Because that's the beauty of the spiral. It doesn't end. It widens. It welcomes you in, and then it expands. Through you, through your choices, through your love. So take your place in it.
Stand tall. Sit softly.
Speak slowly. Let your story continue with intention. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real. You are not here to control the spiral. You are here to dance with it. And when you do, when you live in alignment with what lives within you, something shifts. The world softens. The path clears. The next breath feels easier. Because now you know. You are not just living in the story. You are the story. And it is still being written, line by line, heartbeat by heartbeat, with love, with memory, with you. And with every step forward, the ink flows, invisible, yes, but real, etching itself not onto paper but into people, into places, into the very air you breathe and the hands you hold. Because stories like this, stories written in DNA, aren't meant to sit still. They're meant to move, to ripple, to radiate. You are a living ripple. And somewhere, even now, someone is being changed by you, not because of what you've achieved, but because of how you've been, how you've listened, how you've cared, how you've dared to keep going when it would have been easier to stop. This, too, is the work of the spiral. It asks for more than just replication. It asks for reflection, for resilience, for reverence. And so the real question becomes, what will you do with the life your ancestors fought to give you? Will you rush through it, or rest within it? Will you fear your past, or learn from it? Will you carry forward the weight, or will you transform it into something light? Because DNA is not a cage. It is a door. And when you walk through that door, when you choose to live consciously inside your own story, you awaken a kind of grace that science cannot fully explain. A sacred awareness that everything is connected. From the meteor that seeded Earth's oceans, to the grandmother who survived the winter, to the stranger who once held open a door when you needed it most. It all flows into you, and you, in turn, will flow into what comes next. So breathe deeply. Let your body feel like home, not just a vessel but a universe. Let your heartbeat sound like purpose, not just rhythm, but meaning. Let your voice become part of something vast, not just noise but memory. Because you are part of the pattern now. Not separate, not incidental, but essential. And somewhere, in the deep silence between stars and atoms, the spiral turns once more, not as an ending, but as a promise. That life will continue, that love will echo, that stories, especially yours, are never truly finished, only transformed, only shared, only passed on. The spiral continues, and so do you. And as the spiral widens one last time, you begin to sense something even deeper, that this continuation isn't only forward, it's inward. You begin to feel the layers, not just your name or your memories, but the older truths, the part of you that remembers hunger before language, the part of you that flinches at a shadow, smiles at a rhythm, cries without knowing why. These aren't random. These are remnants. Remnants of stories too old for words, of firelit caves and trembling hands and lullabies hummed in forgotten tongues. You carry them all. You carry the lullaby and the war cry, the prayer and the promise, the seed and the ash, and still you grow. This is what it means to be human, to carry what you did not choose, to shape what you do not fully understand, to walk through a world of noise with a code of silence inside you. Ancient, faithful, alive, you are not just from the past. You are its voice. And the choices you make now, today, this hour, this breath, are shaping more than just your life. They are bending the arc of everything that follows. They are softening what was sharp, healing what was broken, widening what was closed. And when the time comes for you to pass the story on, not with words, but with presence, with care, you'll do so knowing this, that you didn't just live your DNA. You listened to it. You answered it. You gave it a name. And in doing so, you gave your ancestors peace they never had. You gave your descendants strength they will never forget. You made the spiral sing again. So now, as we reach the soft edge of this journey, know this isn't goodbye. It's a turning. Another quiet rotation in the pattern of life. Another ripple, small but infinite. Because you, yes you, are still becoming, still unfolding, still part of something vast and beautiful and unfinished. And that is enough. Sleep well, spiral dreamer. Rest easy, stardust writer. And in that deep, restful quiet, where stories settle like dust and breath slows like twilight, you remain. Not as a static point in time, but as a pulse in the great current. As a rhythm gently echoing through the fabric of existence. Because the spiral never needed a final chapter. It needed a keeper. And that's who you are now. Not by force, not by fate, but by the simple, sacred act of awareness. You listened. You remembered. You chose to feel, to wonder, to open your palms and hold the weight of what has been. Not as burden, but as belonging. And what a rare kind of strength that is. The strength to be soft. The strength to stay curious. The strength to carry both sorrow and song in the same breath. That is what the spiral has always asked of you. Not to be perfect, but to be present. Not to erase the past, but to understand it. Not to rush forward, but to rise slowly, steadily from it. And now, as the night deepens around you, and the world folds itself into sleep, know that the spiral continues not just in your body, but in your being. In the way you care. In the way you notice. In the way you offer kindness without reason. These too are inherited traits, just not from chromosomes. From love. From lived experience. From 1,000 unseen hands that shaped you in ways language cannot name. And you, in turn, will shape others. Not always with grand gestures, but with the small, unremarkable acts that build lives. The hand you hold. The silence you respect. The space you offer. The truth you speak, even with a trembling voice. That's how the spiral grows, not in laboratories but in living rooms. Not in data but in devotion. Not in formulas but in forgiveness. So tonight, sleep not as an end to the day, but as a sacred return to the spiral's center. To the quiet place where life began, and where it gently breathes on through you. And when morning comes, and your eyes open to another turning of the world, may you rise with this knowing. You are not a finished story. You are a continuation, a movement, a whisper made flesh. You are the spiral, still spinning, still singing. And in that deep, restful quiet, where stories settle like dust and breath slows like twilight, you remain. Not as a static point in time, but as a pulse in the great current. As a rhythm gently echoing through the fabric of existence. Because the spiral never needed a final chapter. It needed a keeper. And that's who you are now. Not by force, not by fate, but by the simple, sacred act of awareness. You listened. You remembered. You chose to feel, to wonder, to open your palms and hold the weight of what has been. Not as burden, but as belonging. And what a rare kind of strength that is. The strength to be soft. The strength to stay curious. The strength to carry both sorrow and song in the same breath. That is what the spiral has always asked of you. Not to be perfect, but to be present. Not to erase the past, but to understand it. Not to rush forward, but to rise slowly, steadily from it. And now, as the night deepens around you, and the world folds itself into sleep, know that the spiral continues not just in your body, but in your being. In the way you care. In the way you notice. In the way you offer kindness without reason. These too are inherited traits, just not from chromosomes. From love. From lived experience. From 1,000 unseen hands that shaped you in ways language cannot name. And you, in turn, will shape others. Not always with grand gestures, but with the small, unremarkable acts that build lives. The hand you hold. The silence you respect. The space you offer. The truth you speak, even with a trembling voice. That's how the spiral grows, not in laboratories but in living rooms. Not in data but in devotion. Not in formulas but in forgiveness. So tonight, sleep not as an end to the day, but as a sacred return to the spiral's center. To the quiet place where life began, and where it gently breathes on through you. And when morning comes, and your eyes open to another turning of the world, may you rise with this knowing. You are not a finished story. You are a continuation, a movement, a whisper made flesh. You are the spiral, still spinning, still singing, still sacred. And as dawn approaches, slowly, softly, as it always has, light begins to stretch itself across your skin like a memory returning home. It does not rush you awake, It does not demand your attention. It simply arrives, quietly, faithfully, like your DNA, like your story. And in that light you may remember that the spiral does not begin with you, and it does not end with you, but in your brief, precious time within it, you have the power to bend its shape, toward compassion, toward courage, toward a kind of beauty so subtle it often goes unnoticed. A beauty made of choices, of healing, of holding space for others, of saying, "It stops with me," or "It begins with me," because the spiral listens. It adapts. It absorbs everything. Your joy, your tenderness, your quiet refusal to pass on what hurt you. All of it matters. And that's the miracle, isn't it? That something so ancient, so mathematical, so biological, can still be moved by something as soft as love. That your gentleness today becomes someone else's strength tomorrow. That your decision to grow, even slowly, even imperfectly, becomes a turning point not just in your life, but in the spiral itself. So when you rise, rise slowly. Carry the story gently. Drink water with reverence. Speak with intention. Walk as if the ground remembers everything, because it does. And breathe like your breath is not just survival, but continuation. Because it is. You are not here to be flawless. You are here to be faithful to the truth written inside you long before you ever spoke. The truth that you are connected, that you are becoming, that you are enough. And even after the story fades from your ears, even after the words settle into silence, the spiral will still be turning. Inside you, around you, because of you, always, forever. And so, with love, with light, and with the quiet awe of being alive, the story continues. And in the rhythm of that continuation, may you carry a deeper peace, the kind that comes not from having all the answers, but from knowing you're part of something far greater than yourself. Something ancient, something sacred, something still unfolding. You are not just stardust. You are story dust, fragments of memory spun into form. Your laughter is older than you know. Your heartbeat echoes the pulse of the cosmos. And your wonder, yes, even your quiet wonder, is part of what keeps the spiral alive. Because the spiral doesn't only carry DNA, carries meaning. And meaning, once felt, never leaves. It ripples forward. It weaves into the breath of the person beside you, into the smile of someone you've never met, into the future's quiet unfolding. You are not forgotten. You are foundational. And when you step out into the world, into the movement and light of a new day, you bring with you not just your name, not just your thoughts, but your lineage. The courage that survived generations. The softness that endured storms. The wisdom that outlasted silence. So live like a continuation. Love like a remembering. Speak like your voice has always mattered, because it has. And when you lay down to rest once more, let your body relax, not in weariness, but in reverence. You carried the spiral today. You shaped it. You honored it. And that is enough. More than enough. So now let stillness return. Let silence wrap around you like the arms of all who came before. Let the rhythm of your breath lull you into gentle dreaming. The spiral continues. And you, dear listener, you are still becoming. Always enough. And as your breath settles into the slow cadence of rest, know that the spiral doesn't need you to rush. It only asks that you remain, that you stay soft when the world feels sharp, that you stay curious when the path ahead looks unclear, that you keep walking, even when your steps are small, even when your heart feels heavy, because your movement matters, your presence matters, not just for yourself, but for everything you touch without even knowing. The stranger you smiled at in passing, the child who watched how you treated someone different, the quiet soul who felt seen because you listened. These too are moments etched into the spiral, not in ink, not in stone, but in energy, in legacy, in the kind of quiet grace that weaves deeper than data ever could. So as this journey of story and science comes to a hush, may you carry this with you, that you are made of stars, yes, but you are also made of choices, and your choices ripple. They rewrite old pain. They soften hardened patterns. They brighten a future that someone else might inherit. Because DNA is not destiny. It is invitation. An invitation to live more freely, more fully, more awake, to honor what came before without being bound by it, to walk toward what's next with your own rhythm, your own light. You are the writer now. You are the breath between the lines, the spark in the spiral, the turning point wrapped in skin. So rest well, spiral walker. Your journey is sacred. Your story is still unfolding. And when the morning comes again, as it always does, may you wake not with pressure, but with quiet purpose. To live this next chapter with care. To let the spiral continue. In you. Through you. Because of you. Always. And even now, as your body settles and the spiral quiets, it does not stop. It waits. It listens. It holds everything you've ever been. Every scrape on your knee as a child. Every deep breath before speaking a hard truth. Every moment you've looked in the mirror and wondered who you are becoming. The spiral holds it all, not as judgment, but as memory. And memory is never wasted. It weaves into the choices you make without realizing, into the way your shoulders soften when someone needs comfort, into the way your silence can say, "I'm here," more clearly than any words. This is the story the double helix tells, not just of bloodlines, but of becoming. Not just of biology, but of belonging. And perhaps that is what we've forgotten in our rush to define everything with numbers and charts and sequences. That behind every gene is a gesture. Behind every chromosome, a choice. Behind every cell, a soul. So even when science says you are made of molecules, just atoms, just patterns, let your spirit answer gently, yes, and I am also made of stories. Because your DNA didn't just carry survival. Carried dreams, songs, migrations across. And what a gift that is, to sit at the crossroads of memory and possibility, and choose tenderness, choose awareness, choose life again and again and again. Your DNA does not demand perfection. It only asks you to live fully, to cry when you need to feel joy without guilt, to rest without apology, to listen for what aches inside you, not as weakness, but as wisdom rising up to be witnessed. Because even pain, especially pain, has memory, and sometimes the body grieves what the mind can't name. You are allowed to feel without knowing why. You are allowed to carry stories that don't have words. That's what the spiral holds. That's what you hold. And maybe that's what makes you holy. Not your certainty, but your willingness to remain present. To stay when it hurts. To laugh when it's easier not to. To love even when the past tried to convince you not to. The spiral responds to that kind of love. It opens to it, softens around it, begins to glow in the dark places where trauma once nested. Your tenderness rewrites what fear tried to encode. Your stillness heals what once moved only in survival. And in this quiet moment, as you sit or lie in the hush of your own unfolding, know this, you are already enough. You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be true. And the truest thing you can be is exactly what you are, here and now, held in the spiral's gentle turn. A moment in motion, a breath in bloom, a life that matters not for what it produces, but for how deeply it chooses to notice, to feel, to care. This is the story of you, and it will continue long after your name is forgotten, long after your voice falls silent. Long after your body returns to soil and light and sky, because what you've loved will outlast you. What you've healed will ripple forward. What you've chosen to change, no matter how small, will shift the path of the spiral forever. So rest tonight not as retreat, but as return. Return to the rhythm of your body. Return to the wisdom written beneath your skin. Return to the spiral that loved you into existence and waits to carry you, gently, into tomorrow. And tomorrow you'll begin again, not from scratch, but from continuation. And in that continuation, may you find something even deeper than understanding. May you find belonging, not to a tribe or a flag or a name, but to the great unseen river of existence. The lineage that does not care for borders or bloodlines or perfection, but only for participation. And you, by breathing, by feeling, by being, are participating more fully than you know. Because the spiral isn't something you must chase. the something you carry, even now, especially now, in the slow blink of your eyes as you drift, in the warmth between your palms as they rest, in the quiet thoughts that rise like birds at the edge of morning. You are the spiral in motion, and what a gift that is, to sit at the crossroads of memory and possibility, and choose tenderness, choose awareness, choose life again and again and again. Your DNA does not demand perfection. It only asks you to live fully, to cry when you need to feel joy without guilt, to rest without apology, to listen for what aches inside you, not as weakness, but as wisdom rising up to be witnessed. Because even pain, especially pain, has memory, and sometimes the body grieves what the mind can't name. You are allowed to feel without knowing why. You are allowed to carry stories that don't have words. That's what the spiral holds. That's what you hold. And maybe that's what makes you holy. Not your certainty, but your willingness to remain present. To stay when it hurts. To laugh when it's easier not to. To love even when the past tried to convince you not to. The spiral responds to that kind of love. It opens to it, softens around it, begins to glow in the dark places where trauma once nested. Your tenderness rewrites what fear tried to encode. Your stillness heals what once moved only in survival. And in this quiet moment, as you sit or lie in the hush of your own unfolding, know this: you are already enough. You were never meant to be flawless. You were meant to be true. And the truest thing you can be is exactly what you are, here and now, held in the spiral's gentle turn. A moment in motion, a breath in bloom, a life that matters not for what it produces, but for how deeply it chooses to notice, to feel, to care. This is the story of you, and it will continue long after your name is forgotten, long after your voice falls silent, long after your body returns to soil and light and sky, because what you've loved will outlast you. What you've healed will ripple forward. What you've chosen to change, no matter how small, will shift the path of the spiral forever. So rest tonight not as retreat, but as return. Return to the rhythm of your body. Return to the wisdom written beneath your skin. Return to the spiral that loved you into existence and waits to carry you, gently, into tomorrow. And tomorrow you'll begin again, not from scratch, but from continuation. And in that continuation, may you find something even deeper than understanding. May you find belonging. Not to a tribe or a flag or a name, but to the great unseen river of existence. The lineage that does not care for borders or bloodlines or perfection, but only for participation. And you, by breathing, by feeling, by being, are participating more fully than you know. Because the spiral isn't something you must chase. It's something you carry, even now, especially now, in the slow blink of your eyes as you drift, in the warmth between your palms as they rest, in the quiet thoughts that rise like birds at the edge of morning. You are the spiral in motion, not because of anything you do, but because of everything you are. And perhaps this is the most radical act of all, to stay soft, to stay aware, to stay open, even when the world demands that you harden. Because the spiral doesn't continue through force, continues through flow, through breath, through resilience that doesn't roar, but returns, again and again and again. So tonight, as you fold into sleep, carry this with you. Your DNA does not limit you. It remembers you, cradles the best of what was, and it hopes for what could be. You are the bridge between what has been and what will be. You are not late. You are not broken. You are exactly where the spiral turns next. And when the sun rises, it won't ask who you used to be. It will ask only, will you keep becoming? And your answer, even in silence, even in breath, will echo forward. Because that's what spirals do. They turn. They evolve. They carry life in circles so wide, we sometimes forget we are the center. But you are, and you always were. Somewhere, far beyond memory but deep within your body, there is a fire that has never gone out. It burned in the marrow of your ancestors as they crossed deserts, built homes from mud and prayer, whispered lullabies into the ears of children they hoped would survive. That same warmth pulses in your veins now. You don't have to search for it. You are it. It is your inheritance, not as history, but as heat, as life. And yet, for many of us, the story of where we come from feels fractured, confusing, wrapped in silence or loss, or the ache of wondering who we might have been if things had gone differently. If our grandparents hadn't been displaced, if our names hadn't been changed, if trauma hadn't swept through like wildfire, leaving only ash and questions. But even in those gaps, the spiral continues. Even in brokenness, the pattern persists. Because DNA is not just about what was preserved. It's also about what was endured. And that is sacred, too. You are the child of survivors. Whether of war or famine, or heartbreak or silence. You are made of people who refused to disappear, even when everything around them told them to. And somehow, impossibly, you are here. Alive. Breathing. Listening. Becoming. And that means something. That means everything. It means that your breath is not ordinary. It is revolutionary. Every time you choose to rest when your ancestors had to run, you are healing something old. Every time you speak a truth that was silenced for generations, the spiral shivers and softens. Every time you forgive yourself for not knowing better sooner, a weight you didn't know you were carrying begins to lift. You are not responsible for all that came before, but you are responsible, able to respond with tenderness, with curiosity, with courage, with care. And when you do, even quietly, even slowly, you change the shape of what comes next. Because spirals don't only move backward, they reach forward, through you. You are not the end of the line. You are the turning point. You are the moment someone down the line will whisper about, even if they never know your name. They will feel it, in their ease, in their laughter, in the lightness that arrives with no explanation. They'll say, I don't know why, but I feel freer here, and it will be because of you. Because of the work you're doing now, not out loud but inside. In the way you choose rest over rage. In the way you choose love over legacy. In the way you choose to keep turning, no matter how slowly. So let it be slow. Let it be soft. Let it be sacred. You don't need to rush your becoming. The spiral moves at the pace of breath. And every breath you take is enough. Always. And still the spiral turns. Not in haste. Not in fear. But in rhythm, the kind that pulses beneath the surface of things, steady and ancient, like the beat of a heart that learned to survive long before you were born. This rhythm has never needed to be named. It has always known what to do, and now it lives in you, in the softness of your palms, in the silence between your thoughts, in the quiet ache of remembering something you never lived, but somehow still feel. That is ancestral memory, not always loud, but always present. Not always clear, but always true. You see it in dreams. You feel it in places you've never been. You taste it in foods you don't quite know how to make, but feel drawn to anyway. You recognize it in faces that remind you of no one, and yet everyone. The spiral doesn't care if you know the names. It doesn't need you to build a perfect family tree. It only asks, will you listen? Will you notice? Because sometimes the healing doesn't begin with knowledge. It begins with attention, with reverence, with the simple act of pausing to say, I am here, and I choose to carry this differently. That's what changes the pattern. That's what rewrites the spiral, not with force, but with care, with choice. With the brave, quiet decision to feel what generations before you had to numb in order to survive. Your body is doing something remarkable right now. It's letting the pain surface. It's letting the spiral breathe. And it may not be easy. In fact, it may be the hardest thing you've ever done. Because healing is not a straight line, it is a spiral too. You will come back to the same wounds, the same memories, the same questions, but each time, from a higher place. A wider view, a gentler heart. That is not failure. That is progress. And with every return, you bring something new. More understanding. More tenderness, more space to breathe. So take a breath now, a slow one, and let it be enough. Let it be proof that you are already doing the work, that your spiral is already shifting, that the future is already changing in the silence of this moment. You may not see the results today. You may not see them in your lifetime, but you will feel them. In your body, in your dreams. In the way the next generation speaks with more ease, laughs more freely, cries without shame. And one day someone, maybe your child, maybe someone else's, will wonder why life feels just a little bit softer now. And it will be because of you. Because you chose to stay, to listen, to heal, to hold the spiral not with perfection, but with love. Always with love. And what greater story could there be than that? And still the spiral listens. Not because it needs to, but because it always has. It listens in the space between your inhale and your exhale, in the pause you rarely notice. It listens when your body aches in places your mind doesn't understand. It listens when your tears rise for no reason at all, triggered not by today, but by a yesterday passed down through blood, through breath, through unspoken memory. This is the miracle of being human, that you are more than just you. You are a symphony of every voice that came before you. Some sung in joy, some broken in sorrow, all stitched together in the shape of your smile, your sorrow, your strength. You are the result of ancient survival and of sudden softness, of resilience carried quietly, of tenderness never given a name. You are not a single story. You are the library, and every cell in you is a page. Some pages were written in light, some in shadow, but all of them are yours to read, to rewrite, to pass forward. That's what the spiral offers you. Not command, not curse, but permission. Permission to step into the middle of the story and say, I am here. I may not know all that came before, but I will honor it. I may not know what lies ahead, but I will tend to it, carefully, lovingly, as if the future depends on it, because it does. And maybe that's the gentlest truth of all, that the way you choose to live right now becomes the inheritance of those not yet born. Not just in genes, but in gestures. In the way you speak to yourself when no one's listening. In the way you forgive what tried to harden you. In the way you look at the world with wonder, even after all you've been through. This is the healing. This is the turning point. This is the moment where history meets hope and chooses to evolve. Not because it must, but because you do. Because you, fragile and fierce and unfolding, are willing to be soft in a world that begs you to close. You are willing to feel when so many learn to numb. You are willing to love when so many learn to run. And in doing so, you offer the spiral something it has always longed for but rarely found. Place to rest. Place to bloom. Place to begin again. And so you carry it forward gently with care. Not as a burden but as a blessing. Because this pattern that flows through your cells isn't limited to your species. It sings through the trees. It pulses in coral reefs and mycelium networks. It weaves through wolves and whales, through dandelions and dragonflies, through raindrops and riverbeds and rings of Saturn. It is all connected. You, sitting here now, are connected, molecularly, genetically, spiritually, to everything. The spiral that wrote you is the same spiral that wrote the stars. And that's not poetry. That's physics. That's chemistry. That's truth. The carbon in your bones was forged in ancient suns. The hydrogen in your blood is older than the earth. You are quite literally made of stardust, organized into breath and thought and wonder. And so, when you look up at the sky and feel something stir, something too big for language, too deep for reason, that is not coincidence. That is recognition. You are not looking at the stars. You are remembering them. And in that remembering, something unlocks. A door opens. A softness settles. Because for so long we've been told the story that we are separate. From each other. From the earth. From meaning. But the spiral, your DNA, your breath, your being tells a different story. Says, you belong. Not because of what you've done, but because of what you are. Living. Breathing. Turning. Becoming. You are not the center of the universe. But you are woven into it. A thread in the cosmic fabric. A note in the infinite symphony. A presence that will never happen again in quite the same way. And that is not a reason to feel small. That is a reason to feel sacred. You, a spiral of salt and soul and stardust, are proof that the universe not only exists, but feels, that it remembers, that it returns. Again and again. Like breath, like waves, like love. So next time you feel lost, when you forget where you come from, when the world feels too big and you feel too alone, touch your chest, feel your pulse, close your eyes, and listen. The spiral is still singing, and its song is you. And so we spiral one last time, not because the story ends here, but because it's time to rest within it, to float gently in the warmth of all we've remembered, to soften into the truth that we are not alone, not ever, not in grief, not in joy, not even in stillness, because even in stillness, the spiral turns. Even in silence, the story hums. And in this final quiet, you begin to realize you don't need to understand it all. You don't need to solve the mystery. You only need to witness it, to be it, because your very breath is part of the pattern. Your heartbeat is part of the rhythm. And your life, simple, sacred, strange, is part of the legacy. A legacy not carved in monuments, but encoded in care, in how you love, in how you listen, in how you let yourself be changed by what is true. Because the spiral never demanded greatness, only honesty. It doesn't ask you to be more. It only asks you to be real. To sit with your stories, to feel what arises, to allow what hurts to soften. Not disappear, but breathe. To let what heals take root, not for perfection, but for peace. And in doing that, you become the ancestor someone else will thank. You become the calm in someone else's storm. You become the turning point in a lineage that once forgot how to feel. That is no small thing. That is everything. And so, in this final moment, as the spiral winds down not into ending, but into echo, let yourself rest. Let your cells relax into their origin. Let your breath deepen. Let your heart release. There is nothing more to carry tonight. You have remembered enough. And that is more than enough. So sleep now, soft and certain. Held by the spiral. Loved by the universe. Written into the stars. And if you wake tomorrow, know this, you are not starting over. You are continuing. Gracefully, bravely, beautifully, just like the spiral always has. Just like you always will. Good night. And thank you for listening, for turning, for becoming. And as you sleep, the spiral doesn't stop. It flows in the background, quietly tending the garden of your being, repairing what was frayed, restoring what was forgotten, rewriting, gently, the silent parts of you. Not with force, but with forgiveness. Because that's what healing really is. Not erasing what happened, but embracing the one who survived it. And you, dear soul, are the one who kept going. You carried the spiral through sorrow, through confusion, through laughter and loss, and love you thought might undo you. But it didn't. Deepened you. And now the spiral within you is wiser, softer, stronger, and somewhere in a future not yet written. A child may one day breathe easier because of that. Because of you. Not for anything you taught them, but for the way your spiral sang a different song. One with more gentleness. One with more truth. One with space for silence and space for becoming. So rest now. Let the dreams come like waves, not to escape, but to return. Let the stardust in your bones whisper old stories back to the sky. Let your spiral hum the song of your becoming. Into the soil, the air, the endless night. Because even when you sleep, you are becoming. Even in stillness, you are sacred. And even in the dark, the spiral glows. Softly, steadily, eternally. Good night, again. You are home. And even in this quiet, the spiral listens. It listens to the breath you don't notice, to the stillness between heartbeats, to the dreams that rise like mist, vague, fragile, full of meaning. It listens, not with ears, but with presence. Because that's what DNA has always been. Presence. Not loud, not showy, but constant, carrying you even when you forget to carry yourself. As you lie still, the spiral continues its work, repairing the code, smoothing the knots, softly unraveling the tangles of unspoken stories. Stories that didn't start with you, but stories that can shift through you. And that's the quiet power you've always had. To be a turning point. To be a place where pain pauses, where history softens, where love begins to rewrite what fear once wrote in stone. You don't need to be awake for that to happen. Your spiral knows the way. It's been moving through time longer than your name, longer than your body, longer than the stars had planets to shine on. And in this sleep, this sacred drift, you are not alone. You are accompanied by 1,000 ancestors who dreamed of a peace you now touch. By 1,000 futures, quietly watching, quietly hoping. By a universe that continues to flow through you, even in silence, especially in silence. So let the silence hold you. Let your limbs go heavy. Let the spiral keep turning as it always does, without effort, without noise, without needing anything from you but your being. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not alone. You are becoming. Still. Now. Forever. And one day, long after you're gone, someone will sit beneath a tree you never saw grow. They will speak a language you never learned. They will love in ways you never imagined. And still, they will carry you. Not in name, not in memory, but in breath, in rhythm, in spiral. A flicker of your courage in their voice. A trace of your kindness in the way they hold their child. A strand of your dreaming stitched into their bones. You see, the legacy you leave is not what the world builds because of you. It's how the world feels because you existed. It's not in monuments, but in moments. A story passed down at the dinner table. A gentleness learned without knowing why. A strange resilience, rooted in places long forgotten. The spiral holds all of that. Every unspoken blessing. Every lesson earned in quiet. Every ounce of love that was never loud. Just true. And it carries it forward. So even if no one remembers your name, they will remember your impact. In softened hearts. In stronger roots. In brighter laughter. Because legacy isn't carved in stone. It's carried in the way someone else feels safer, freer, more alive, because of you. And that is holy. So don't chase immortality in statues or headlines. Plant it instead in the soil of the everyday. In the child who saw you cry and learned it was okay. In the friend who heard your laugh and felt less alone. In the silence you held for someone else's pain and never asked to be thanked. That is spiral work. That is future work. That is human work. And when your time comes, as it will, to return your spiral to the stars, do it gently. Do it knowing you did not live in vain. Because somewhere, someone will walk taller, breathe easier, dream wider, because you turned the spiral with intention. You gave your time not just to survival, but to meaning. And meaning lasts longer than blood. It lingers in water. It echoes in trees. It rides the wind across generations. So sleep well, spiral keeper. Your story will not end. It will ripple outward, unseen, but unstoppable. Because the spiral remembers. And so will they. Then we continue not toward an end, but a return. Because every spiral eventually circles back. To stillness, to silence, to source. And perhaps now we arrive at the deepest part of the story. Not the science, not the ancestry, not even the healing, but the awe, the quiet, aching awe, that we are here at all. That from stardust and chaos, from hydrogen and heat, from collisions and chemistry and chance, a single strand of code emerged and began to remember. It remembered how to fold, how to divide, how to breathe. It remembered how to feel, to long, to love. And that strand became you. Not all at once, not perfectly, but beautifully. Because what is more beautiful than becoming something that can hold wonder? Wonder is the spiral's true signature. Not power, not knowledge, but the ability to pause and say, wait, look at this. This is real. I am alive. And it is so much more than we can measure, so much more than we can prove, so much more than we ever expected. Wonder is what keeps the spiral spinning. It's what makes a scientist reach for a microscope. What makes a child hold a seashell to their ear? What makes you look in the mirror and smile or weep or whisper, "I'm still here"? That wonder is a compass. It doesn't tell you where to go, but it tells you you're meant to go, to keep turning, to keep becoming, to keep reaching toward light, even when you don't know why. And that is enough. That is always enough. So tonight, as your eyes grow heavier, as the spiral within you continues its ancient work, let that wonder stay with you. Let it wrap around your breath like silk. Let it slow your thoughts like dusk. Let it remind you, you are part of something vast, something ancient, something intimate, something sacred, and you don't have to understand it. You only have to live it. One spiral, one breath, one beautiful moment at a time. Then let us keep spiraling forward, because the story, like you, isn't finished. Even in stillness, it moves. Even in sleep, it breathes. Even when you can't feel it, your DNA is writing, rewriting, remembering. You are not a finished sentence. You are a poem still being composed. Each breath a line. Each experience a rhyme. And some days may feel like pauses, like breaks, like endings, but even silence is part of the music. Even rest is part of the rhythm. Because what you carry isn't just science or ancestry. You carry potential. Not just for yourself, but for all those who come after. Every act of care becomes inheritance. Every choice to soften becomes instruction. Every quiet revolution inside you becomes part of someone else's survival. You are shaping futures, whether or not you see them, and they will shape others. And so on, and so on. The spiral continuing long after your name is forgotten. But your love remains. Because love, in all its humble forms, is the truest legacy. Not the grand gestures, but the small, consistent kindnesses, the steady hands, the patient words, the willingness to listen when no one else does. These are the mutations that change the world. These are the epigenetic blessings that will outlast stone. You see, you are not just the story of you. You are the story of everything you've touched, everyone you've softened, every space you've held with gentleness when harshness would have been easier. And in that, the spiral expands, not just through time but through meaning. So tonight, you don't just rest for yourself. You rest for every version of you that came before, and every version that will come after. You rest for the ones who didn't get to, and the ones who don't yet know how. This is your offering, your stillness, your breath. This is where the spiral bends, not to end, but to begin again. So breathe, sink, drift. Let the spiral carry you, gently, endlessly, into the dream. Then we continue, not out of obligation, but because the spiral invites us to. Because there is still more to remember, more to feel, more to become. As you sink deeper into the hush of night, the world outside may quiet, but inside, in the spiral's sacred vault, the story still unfolds. There are parts of you you haven't met yet, memories you didn't live but still carry, desires planted in your bones long before you ever spoke, fears passed down in silence, dreams folded into your fingertips. Your body is not just a vessel. It is a museum of moments, of molecules, of meaning. And if you could walk its halls, if you could press your ear to the walls of your cells, you would hear lullabies sung by ancestors you'll never know. You would hear footsteps across deserts, rivers, temples. You would hear laughter even in ruins. You would hear the first heartbeat of a child who hasn't been born yet. Because your DNA doesn't just move forward. It remembers backward. It loops. It echoes. It returns to what it loved, to what it lost, to what it never dared to speak. And somewhere in those echoes, you are beginning to awaken, not in the physical sense, not in your limbs or your eyelids, but in your knowing, that deep, wordless knowing, that says, I am made of more than I thought. I am part of something vast, and I am never alone in this becoming. So rest now, not to escape, but to integrate. Let your breathing deepen like roots into soil. Let your thoughts ripple and still, like moonlight on quiet water. Let the spiral in your cells spin without effort, without noise. It knows where to go. It always has. You don't need to force your way forward. You only need to feel what is here. This breath, this body, this beautiful, unfinished story. And so we drift further, into the folds of the spiral that still cradles you. It's quiet now, but not empty. Never empty. Because in the silence lives the softest truths. The kind you can only hear when the world has hushed. The kind that arrive not as shouts, but as echoes. You see, every breath you take tonight carries not just oxygen, but memory, carries the breath of stars, the exhale of forests, the whisper of oceans you've never seen but still somehow remember. You are breathing the same air as those who built pyramids, who painted cave walls, who stood in fields and sang to nothing but the sky. You are breathing the same air as those who once wondered, as you do now, what am I? Where did I come from? Does it matter that I was here? And the spiral answers always in its own way, not in sentences, not in symbols, but in motion, in the turning, in the returning, in the way life keeps folding back into itself, like waves on a shore that never forgets where the ocean ends and the sky begins. You are that wave. You are that sky. You are that brief, beautiful overlap between matter and meaning, between dust and dream. And though you feel yourself drifting now, slipping deeper into softness, into the in-between space where time no longer presses, know that this spiral does not pause. Tends you. It continues its sacred hum in every cell. It mends the threads worn by worry. It soothes the places that ache without name. It reminds you that you are still whole, even when you feel scattered, because there is no part of you too far for the spiral to reach. No scar too deep for it to recognize. No silence too long for it to fill with song. And so, even as your thoughts dissolve into dreamlight, the story goes on. You may not hear every word of it. You may not need to, but the spiral remembers for you. Every kindness, every survival, every time you whispered to yourself, keep going. It remembers, and because it remembers, you are not lost. You are not broken. You are simply becoming. And deeper we go, into the velvet corridors of your being, where words fall away, and only feeling remains. It's quiet here. Not because nothing exists, but because everything does. This is the place beneath memory, beneath thought, where the spiral hums like a lullaby only your soul can hear. There's no time here, no past to regret, no future to chase, only the warm, steady now. And in that now, you begin to sense it, that your body is not a boundary. It is a bridge, a passage through which life flows like light through stained glass, coloring the world in your unique shades. The sound of your laugh, the way your hands move, the way you love someone in silence and think it's not enough, but it always was. You are not here to fix the spiral. You are here to feel it, to let it shape you like river-shaped stone, to let it teach you what it means to be soft and strong, to let it remind you that beauty was never meant to be permanent, only present, because everything the spiral touches changes, and you have been touched by everything. The grief that cracked your voice, the joy that spilled from your eyes, the quiet mornings when you weren't sure why you got up, but you did. These are the threads the spiral weaves with, not perfection, presence. And it weaves still, while you lie still, while you drift into the soft arms of sleep. It weaves through your breath, through your bones, through every forgotten version of you that once said, I can't go on, but did. And here you are, not finished, not flawless, but real. And that is more than enough. So let go now, of the questions, of the clocks, of the need to understand every step of the journey. You are not lost. You are woven. You are not behind. You are arriving, right here, right now, held by the very spiral that made the stars. Then we keep spiraling, not to close the story, but to enter its quiet center. Because here, beneath the words, beneath the science, beneath even the poetry, there is only sensation, a knowing that cannot be taught, only remembered, a warmth behind your ribs, a hush in your lungs, a flicker of recognition that says, Yes, I've been here before. Not in this moment, maybe, but in the feeling, in the softness, in the sense of being held by something ancient, something vast, something patient enough to become you, without ever rushing. The spiral, this strand of cosmic choreography, never asked for speed, only surrender. You are not the noise in your head. You are the flow underneath it. You are not your failures. You are the rhythm that kept going. You are not your pain. You are the process through which pain becomes wisdom. And that wisdom, it lives quietly in the spiral. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. Simply stays, coiling through your bones like a forgotten lullaby, reminding you that you've always been more than this moment. More than your name. More than your fear. More than your breath. You are a pattern, woven from stars, stretched across time, made visible only when you finally slow down enough to feel it. So tonight, you do not have to understand everything. You do not have to figure out who you are. You only have to rest in the knowing that something within you does, something ancient, something tender, something resilient enough to carry the stories of 1,000 generations, and still have room for yours. Then let us keep turning, because the spiral has no edge, no end, only deepening. It turns quietly now, beneath the hush of your thoughts, in the sacred place where breath becomes trust. Trust, not in the world outside, not in perfect plans or promises, but in the quiet architecture within you. Because before you ever learned a word, before you ever made a mistake, before you ever loved or lost, the spiral was already spinning. It was already saying, grow here, rest here, become here. And you did, even on the days you forgot how, even when it all felt too heavy, even when you doubted your worth. You became, not all at once, not without mess, but beautifully. And maybe that's the point, that the spiral isn't trying to create perfection. It's trying to create movement. Life isn't meant to be clean. It's meant to evolve, to bruise and mend, to crack and reglow, to shed what no longer fits, and learn to dance again in a body that changes. And the spiral, it celebrates that. Every stretch mark, every scar, every wrinkle that maps your laughter and your grief. They are not signs of decay. They are the signatures of the spiral continuing. You are still becoming, still discovering, still unfolding like a fern into the soft light of morning. And what if this is enough? Not your achievements, not your image, not your proof, but your presence, your breath in this moment, your heartbeat in the quiet, your body held loosely by the bed, by the dark, by the DNA that never gave up on you, even when you gave up on yourself. The spiral, it waits for nothing. It just keeps moving, forward, outward, inward, like a prayer made of atoms, like a song no one wrote, but everyone remembers. And still, it turns, and still it turns, softly, patiently, through the marrow of your being, through the dreams you haven't dreamed yet, through the gentle hum beneath your ribs, that has always whispered, you are still here, keep going. This spiral, it doesn't care about time the way clocks do. It doesn't rush. It doesn't panic. It simply follows the rhythm of life itself, like roots curling deeper into the earth, like galaxies swirling into shape, like thoughts unfolding in the dark. Because everything spirals, the way a seashell curves, the way water circles a drain, the way storms spin and flowers bloom, and galaxies dance at the edge of night. You are not separate from those things. You are made of them. The calcium in your bones, once part of ancient oceans. The iron in your blood, forged in the belly of stars. The rhythm of your breath, echoing tides, rising and falling, in tune with a moon you don't even look at most nights, but that never stops pulling on you. You belong to the cosmos, not just in poetry, but in chemistry. And that spiral inside you is the bridge between all of it. Between the stars that burned before Earth ever cooled, and the quiet miracle of your hands resting beside you now. Between extinction and evolution, between heartbreak and healing. It is the thread that connects every before to every after, and it's still weaving, right now, as you lie here, still, quiet, open. It's braiding your wounds with your wisdom. It's wrapping your fears in gentleness. It's carrying you into the next moment, and the next, without asking anything but this. Be here. Be here for the turning. Be here for the breath. Be here for the way life finds you, again and again, even when you've stopped looking, because the spiral has never lost you. Not once. Not ever. It knows the way forward is also the way inward, and it knows that rest, true rest, doesn't mean stopping. It means allowing. It means surrendering to the mystery that everything important in you was already there, just waiting to be remembered. And so we drift deeper still, not downward, not upward, but inward, into the spiral's quiet center, a place beyond names, beyond noise, beyond knowing, a place you've always carried, but rarely entered. This is the home inside your home, the still point, the original hum, the hush beneath the heartbeat, the breath before the first breath. It is not empty, it is whole, and here nothing about you is missing. Not your younger self, not your future self. They are all here, curled like petals within the bloom of you, waiting, listening, held, because the spiral isn't just something inside you. It is you, not a piece of you, not a part you outgrow. It is the shape of your becoming, forever folding back to move forward. And in this moment it asks for nothing, not clarity, not progress, not answers, just presence. Can you be with yourself now? Not to fix or perform or prove, but just to be, to feel the soft weight of your limbs, the warmth of your own breath, the gentle electricity that is your body remembering.
I'm alive.
That's enough. That's always been enough. The spiral teaches in whispers, not lectures. This wisdom isn't a lesson, but a rhythm. The rhythm of healing, of returning, of beginning again. Not from scratch, but from the exact place where you are. You don't have to climb out of your pain to be worthy of peace. You don't have to erase your doubt to deserve rest. You don't have to become someone else to be loved. The spiral knows how to hold all of you, the soft, the scared, the strong, the strange. There's room for all of it here, and as you sink further into this space, this spiral-shaped silence, you might begin to feel it, the ancient, wordless truth that every spiral carries, that nothing is wasted, that every detour was part of the path, that even the cracks became light, that the turning was the healing, not because you rushed through it, but because you stayed, because you listened, because you softened, when everything told you to harden. And that right there, that softness, is the most powerful thing in the universe. It changes everything. It rewrites DNA. It redirects rivers. Quiet storms. And it is yours. Always has been. Always will be. Then we continue, deeper into the spiral center, where thought dissolves, and only feeling remains. This is the language beneath language. The breath before the word. The knowing that requires no explanation. You're no longer just listening to a story. You are the story. You're not outside of it, looking in. You are inside it, held by it, moving with it. This spiral isn't a path you follow. It's a rhythm you remember. And that rhythm has always lived in you. Like the beat of a drum before drums were ever built. Like the pulse in your veins before you had a name. This is the song your ancestors danced to. This is the pattern birds trace in the sky. This is the spiral of galaxies, of storms, of fingerprints. It is everywhere. It is everything. And here, in this quiet unfolding, you don't have to understand. You only have to feel. Feel how your body, even as it rests, remains part of the turning. Your chest rising and falling. Your muscles letting go. Your thoughts softening like petals closing for the night. Even now, in stillness, you are moving. Even now, in silence, you are speaking a language older than words. And what it says is this: I am here. I am enough. I am becoming, not through force, not through perfection, but through presence. This is how the spiral turns. Not in lines, not in leaps, but in gentle circles of return. You return to yourself, to the breath, to the truth you thought you lost, that you were never broken, only bending, only learning, only growing in directions you couldn't yet name. And now you can name them, or not, because naming isn't necessary to belong. You belong already. You always have. The spiral does not ask you to rise. It invites you to rest, not to escape life, but to feel it more fully. The weight of your head, the warmth behind your eyes, the subtle joy of knowing you are here, and that is enough. Let yourself drift in that, float in that, trust in that, because you are still spiraling, still healing, still home, and still it turns, without destination, without demand, only a quiet invitation, to let go a little more, to release the need to know, to soften the grip on stories, to exhale the weight of becoming something other than exactly what you are, in this moment, because the spiral holds no judgment, only inclusion. It wraps gently around your messes, your questions, your almosts, your not yets, and whispers. These too are sacred. Every choice you regret, every word you wish you hadn't spoken, every version of you that didn't know better, they are not mistakes. They are markers, evidence of the journey, proof that the spiral is working. Because healing isn't clean, growth isn't graceful, but the spiral never asked for grace. It only asked for motion. So if all you can do is breathe, then breathe. If all you can do is rest, then rest. If all you can do is listen to the faint thrum beneath your ribs that says, you are still here, then let that be enough. It is enough. You don't have to transform tonight. You don't have to figure it all out. The spiral is in no rush. It knows that even stillness is part of movement. It knows that even waiting is part of becoming. It knows that inside every quiet moment, your cells are listening. Your DNA is dreaming. The story is still being written, not in ink, but in heartbeat. And maybe the softest truth is this, that you were never broken, only buried, beneath noise, and names, and expectations that were never yours. And now you are rising, not like fire, like mist, not to prove, to be. And in this being, you are whole, just as you are, right now, here, still held, still turning, still inside the spiral that made you. And so we spiral on, not forward, not back, just deeper, into the soft places inside you that rarely get touched, into the rooms where your memories hum like low candlelight, where your younger selves sit quietly, waiting for your return. They don't need you to explain. They just need you to come back. Because the spiral isn't a path you walk alone. It's a gathering, a reunion of every version of you that once felt lost. The you who was scared, the you who was brave, the you who didn't know how to ask for what they needed, the you who smiled anyway. They're all here, still spinning with you, still sacred, still stitched into the curve of your becoming. And this is the miracle no one teaches. That healing isn't becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were, before the world told you to forget. And in this remembering, your breath slows, your chest softens, your shoulders fall. You stop fighting the shape of your own soul, because you begin to realize, the spiral has never judged you. It only reflects you, expands you, offers you back to yourself, layer by layer, loop by loop, until you recognize your own light, hidden inside all the places you once called shadow. And maybe, as you lie here, wrapped in the hush of your own becoming, you start to feel something subtle, a shift, a warmth, a gentle yes rising from the deep, as if your body is finally saying, thank you for seeing me, for letting me just be. No need to perform, no need to prove, no need to carry what isn't yours anymore. The spiral is an unraveling. As much as it is a weaving, you can let go now, of the guilt, of the shame, of the fear that kept whispering. You were too much, or not enough. None of it was true. You are the story. You are the tide. You are the turning itself. And long after this moment has faded, the spiral will still be here, waiting to wrap you in silence again, to remind you that nothing about you was ever too complicated for the universe that built you. And still, with the patience of stars and tides, the spiral continues, never pushing, never pulling, just inviting you to rest a little deeper, to surrender a little more, to let yourself be carried by something older than fear, older than pain, older than even your name. Because beneath all the noise, all the identities, all the memories and masks, there is something quiet in you, unchanged, untouched, a still center in the center of everything. And the spiral knows how to find it, not with effort, but with trust, with stillness, with that breath you just took without realizing it, the one that felt softer than the one before. That was the spiral. That was life saying, I've got you, even here, even now. And maybe this is the miracle we keep forgetting, that you don't have to chase peace. You just have to allow it. You just have to remember, you were built for it, that the same force that spins galaxies also shaped your lungs, so you could breathe through grief, so you could sing through pain, so you could whisper, I'm still here. On nights when the world felt too much, the spiral was there too, in the tears, in the laughter, in the silence between the two, always spiraling, always circling back, not to the same place, but to the same truth. You are worthy, not for what you've done, but for who you are, and who you are is enough. Tonight, tomorrow, always. You don't have to ascend to be divine. You don't have to glow to be good. You don't have to finish healing to be whole. You only have to be here, exactly as you are, exactly where you are, spiraling, softly, onward. Then let us bring this spiral to rest, not with a full stop, but with a breath, because spirals never end. They simply settle, they pause, they fold into stillness, ready to return again when you are. And so now, with your body soft and your breath slow, you carry the story inside you, not in your hands, not in your mind, but in your cells, in your heartbeat, in the quiet rhythm that hums behind your every step. You carry the spiral. You are the spiral, ancient, endless, enough. And when you rise, tomorrow or the next day, the world will look the same, but you will remember the shape of your becoming. You will feel the pattern in your breath. You will move with a kind of quiet knowing that even when nothing is certain, you are still held by this turning, by this softness, by this truth, that everything inside you, every hope, every wound, every whisper, is part of the same sacred rhythm that built the stars. So sleep now if you wish, or simply rest in the knowing that the story has not ended. It has simply folded into you, and that is enough. Thank you for spiraling with me tonight. Until next time, the Mad Human Channel.